Another day, another Supreme Court drama. The Guardian is reporting that lawyers who had business before the Supreme Court paid money to a top aide to Justice Clarence Thomas. The newspaper discovered the public Venmo account of one of Thomas's aides. The aide's account seemed to show that he received 7 payments in November and December of 2019 from lawyers who previously served as Thomas legal clerks. Upon further digging, The Guardian noted that it seemed that the purpose of each payment is listed as either Christmas party, Thomas Christmas party, CT Christmas party, or CT Xmas party, in an apparent reference to the justice's initials. Who are these folks enjoying these Christmas parties? Reportedly, there are people who have had successful business before the court, including someone who argued the affirmative action case, a former White House deputy counsel in the Trump administration, and the former Solicitor General of West Virginia, who had a key role in a case before the court that limited the EPA's ability to regulate greenhouse gases. One ethical expert did note that it was possible that the former clerks were paying their own party expenses and not expenses for Thomas. All of this comes on the heels of yet another explosive report by the New York Times about how Clarence Thomas gave unusual access to the Horatio Alger Association, a group of ultra-wealthy individuals who dole out scholarships. One thing that might help resolve this deluge is a formal code of conduct, which the Supreme Court currently does not have. The Senate Judiciary Committee is looking to do something about that. They are set to mark up and vote on Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act, which would require the justices to adopt a code of conduct, among other things. And joining me now is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Moments ago, he delivered a speech on the Senate floor about conservative activist Leonard Leo and his influence on the Supreme Court. Justice Samuel Alito specifically. And Senator Whitehouse, it's always great to see you. I just want to ask you to give us a condensed version of the speech that you just gave, if you would.
Well, the speech basically points out that we are in a very peculiar environment at the Supreme Court with multiple right-wing billionaires. By my count, we're up to 6 right-wing billionaires who are in various ways seeing to the care and feeding of, so far, 2 United States Supreme Court justices. I think this is the tip of an iceberg. A lot more investigation is required, but we're going to start work this coming week on getting a law passed to try to make this all more transparent and make clear where it's absolutely wrong and shouldn't be done at all, even if you have to disclose it later.
I mean, the thing about it, even the Venmo thing, like, we don't know what they were Venmoing for, what they were paying for these Christmas parties. But I think it's the perception that I think increasingly a lot of us have, and I'll just admit that I have, that what the Supreme Court, at least the conservative 6, what they are is a little club with them and their billionaire friends and their former, clerks who work for some of these billionaire organizations that are coming in and they're all kikiing together. And then they just happen to get their way like 90% of the time in these court rulings. They're all working together. It's the lawyer that's arguing the case is on the board of the Heritage Foundation, and they're Leonard Leo's friend, and they all vacation together. It is like an oligarchy. It's like this little oligarchy of a few dozen people are making the rules for the rest of us, and we have to live with them. And it's not clear those rules are based on the Constitution. It might be based on this small group of rich people's preferences. Is there a law that you all could pass that would fix that? Because that's the perception a lot of people have.
I think the thing that will fix that is proper investigation. And of course, that's the last thing these billionaires want. We've heard from the one billionaire's lawyer that he won't answer our questions because it would violate separation of powers for us to ask this billionaire questions. It doesn't take much constitutional scholarship to know that separation of powers protects legislative branches of government from each other.
Right.
It doesn't have any effect on a billionaire unless this billionaire in some weird way thinks that he's now a 4th branch of government.
But aren't they? But I mean, aren't they, Senator? I mean, in a sense, aren't they a 4th branch of government?
Billionaires has somewhat taken over that role.
Yes.
I think that the billionaire influence over the Supreme Court is right now greater than the legal influence over the Supreme Court in cases in which the billionaires take an interest.
And this is the thing, like, you know, we cannot know. I mean, Clarence Thomas has been a far right winger since he got on the court after being credibly accused of sexual harassment. So it's possible that he would have always ruled this way anyway. But the more you hear about him being taken on fancy trips and enjoying the good life and the lush life that he can't afford on whatever $272,000 that we're paying him as taxpayers, the more you wonder whether even if he was sort of steering this way anyway, he steers a little more, because the more he does what these billionaires want, the more goodies he gets, the more goodies his family gets. One of them is his mother's landlord. I can't imagine a city council person not being thrown off the city council for doing that sort of thing, yet our Supreme Court gets to do it.
The same guy paid his grandson, who he's raising, his grandnephews, who he's raising, tuition. They are taking them on private jets and pretending that the private jets are food, lodging, or entertainment, which are the only allowed exceptions. There are multiple layers to this, but you start with really bad behavior by these justices. And then you start with failures to report and follow the rules within the judiciary about those acts of bad behavior. And then you get to excuses they make about the bad behavior and the failure to report that are preposterous. I mean, eye-rolling excuses like Alito claiming that an airplane is a facility. And then you get to the fact that they will never, ever, ever come clean about what the facts are. The most basic duty in any investigation to get the facts out, they defend against.
Let me ask you about your bill. I mean, I presume Democrats can pass it. Hopefully, you know, somebody like a Manchin won't pull something, or a Kristen Sinema. But presuming you all can pass it, are you aware of a House majority, including a handful of these sort of, you know, try to maybe get out of the swamp Republicans, that will pass it on the House side so that you can actually have a bill go to President Biden's desk?
I think a great deal depends on continuing investigation. The press, your fourth estate, is doing a masterful job at bringing out information. I think there's going to be a lot more information coming out in the next few weeks. So the story is going to continue to get worse for these justices. And Republicans are going to be in an increasingly difficult position saying, nothing to see here, folks, nothing to see here, folks, when even their own federal judges in their home states are rolling their eyes and saying, you got to be kidding me. We would never do this in my court.
Yeah. It is a conundrum. Hopefully, or it could also be a voting issue in 2024. We shall see. There are a lot of Senate races coming up. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you. Thank you very much. Please keep us posted on the progress of your bill.